Thank you for being here for week 2. I'm glad that I haven't lost anybody yet. That's good. Um, I thought I started last time a little bit with asking for some wins because I like to do that because we look so often for the struggles. So does anybody have any wins they want to share with us? Sometimes it's hard to think of them off the top of your head, but even, it can be very tiny. It can be something not vocal related, but I also want to hear your vocal related wins as well.
So after we did the hot seat thing like all day yesterday, I recorded myself and listened to myself singing and like tried different things with like different voices and trying like to get my larynx in different positions and like made an active attempt to not be such a hater and be like, wow, okay, this I can work on and this is like I would like it to sound more like this and trying to like, yeah. So
Amazing.
I'm calling that a vocal.
Absolutely. That's huge. Yeah, that's hard to do that even when your default is to not, you know. It's habit building is not easy, but that's really great. Yes. Love that. Anybody else? Hi Josh, welcome.
Hi, sorry, camera
You're
not
good.
working.
Take your
How
time.
are you? Hi, guys.
Hey, welcome.
Thanks.
We're just sharing some wins. So if you have a win this week, vocal or otherwise, big or small,
For
you're
sure.
welcome to share it.
Yeah, tricky week because we're back east. I'm in a house with 10 people right now that this big, this house. It's like a little box, pretty much a cardboard box with windows. So it's kind of been tricky for me to really do anything without kind of like disappearing into the woods. But working with you the other day was a win just from a sort of mental, emotional standpoint of developing confidence so early in the game, feeling like an absolute beginner, and approaching the group situation, the cohort situation with the rest of the girls here in a way that don't take it as sort of an ego thing or anything related to confidence or diminishing the confidence of just trying to appreciate my abilities so far and what I've learned and continue to learn without any restrictions.
That's so good. Yeah, that's a great attitude to have. Even if you feel like there's so much to learn still, just coming at it from a place of, you know what? I am where I
Mhm.
am, and that is great. That's huge.
Exactly. You said it better than I could. Yep.
Yeah,
Thank you.
because so many of us just default to, oh man, I am not where I want to be, and there's such a big gap. But if we
Right.
concentrate on the
Right.
gap, then we're not gonna have like we're not going to be able to see what we already have done, which makes it harder then to make strides to move forward for sure. So that's huge. Congratulations. That's awesome. Yay. Anybody else? Other wins?
I have a little win. I think you already know my little win, but it's to kind of echoing Steph's win where I have consistently pressed record on that little button, that little thing, and just let it out and let it be what it be.
Yes. Every day recently, right?
Every day, yes. Every day.
Yeah. That's huge. That's a big scary thing. And would you want to tell me like how it changed from the first day to the last day?
Well, the first day it was like jitters, anxiety, tightness every single time. And then finally, even today, I did it today and I was just like, oh, cool. Yeah, okay, it's whatever. I'm doing that thing.
Yeah, less jitters, less heightened a red alertness, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's so good. And that's after only a couple days. So that's a huge thing. It really is. Your body and your nervous system learns so fast that this is
yeah,
a
I'm
normal thing now.
yeah,
So
excited for like future me. I'm like, wow,
Yeah, it feels this good now. Think how good it will feel to push that button in the future. My goodness.
Yeah.
So cool. Lovely. What else?
I guess I don't have a vocal win in mind, just being back in my hometown. I've already gotten to see many friends, and I'm staying with my mom right now. So just feeling like held as I'm going into all of this new stuff feels really nice. And I've had a lot of change in the last year, so to feel held and supported by my community, even when I've only been here a few days, is really nice to have that sense of um, belonging.
Yeah, that's so lovely. I'm so glad you have that there. That's wonderful. That's such a huge jumping off point, you know. You'll be able to do more because you have that, I think. Not that that's the goal, but just that I'm so glad for you. That's so wonderful.
Yeah, it does make a huge difference for sure.
Yay, that's awesome. Cool. Well, it sounds like you guys are all in a really good place after just 1 week of being here. You know, ready to go from wherever you are. It's totally fine. And you know, I just want to reiterate that like we are all so different, regardless of what kind of vocal skill you have. The goal is not to you know, climb up the ladder and get an A. The goal is to start where you are and get better at the things you need to get better at, and just make sure you're focusing on that and not letting the usual gremlin of like I am not good enough, you know, whatever flavor that comes in for you, just not letting that come in as much as maybe he or she or they normally do, you know? So keep that in mind. Again, this is an adult class. How we usually think of class in our usual school iterations is not this. So I just want to help you feel safer to be imperfect and mess up and whatever that looks like for you in this situation. So whatever comes up, we're here for it in whatever environment that looks like. You know what I mean? Okay, cool. Lovely. Let me just check on Jenny. I know she works before this, so make sure. Oh, okay, she can make it. Perfect. Good to know. Alrighty, sweet. So let's dive into what we're going to talk about today. I know if you have worked with me a little bit or have watched any of my lives, you've heard me talk about the Gremlin. So we're going to talk about that today. It's my favorite thing to talk about. But before we do that, it's really important to kind of orient where that comes from. Now, keep in mind that I am not a therapist. I am not going to diagnose you. I am not going to dive deep into your past and your childhood and your demons. That is for you to decide how deep you want to go and how much you want to share. So you don't have to share any of this if you don't want to. It's just, I'm going to ask the questions, and if you want to dive in, please do. It's just good for you to know about yourself as a singer, as an artist, where these blocks are coming from. But first of all, I think it's just good to keep diving into our patterns. So let me share this screen. So this is kind of where we are currently, of course, at the very beginning. We're just becoming at home in our voice and learning about where we are so that we know what potential we have. So we're going to talk about habit and dedication statements today. So usually, I got this from another coach of mine, and she calls it default and commitment. And I think those are good words too, but I think habit for me feels more true. So the thing that just comes up in my mind so often, can you still see that now that I presented it? Okay, great. The things that come up in my mind, yes, it's a default, but it's also just because it's a habit. It's just that pathway is so well worn in my brain that that's the thing that comes up most often when I hit conflict. So number one, go back and check last time. What were the weaknesses and threats from the SWOT exercise? I love that word, SWOT. So this might be where your habit statement is coming from when you feel this threat come on, or this weakness that you have and you're presented with a challenge and you feel like you don't have the ability to do that. Another way to find this is think about something that you wanted, like a thing that you wanted to achieve or a thing that you wanted. Maybe when you were a kid, you wanted like a doll or something and it didn't show up, like your parents said no. Or if you wanted to get an A in this one class and you just couldn't do it. Or if you wanted to make the swim team, it just didn't happen. What did you want to scream in that moment? What was your inside screaming? Right? So for me, most often it's some form of you're doing it wrong. You're too much, you're not enough, you're not good enough, all those flavors depending on the day. So that's kind of what my inner self want to scream. Like, why can't I do this? Like, what am I doing wrong? It should be a very familiar feeling for you when you come up against conflict in your job, in relationships, all this stuff. Okay, so another way we can get there is just notice when these negative voices come in. And this can be when you're singing, when you're thinking about other things that are a struggle in your life. Like the default statement that might come in is like, ew, if you hit a quote unquote wrong note, your gremlin might go, ew, gross. Why did you let that out of your mouth? Or that sounded bad. Or it's so hard, it's too hard. So this might be part of your habit statement. So write down anything that's coming to mind. Think about like the last time you were in a challenging situation, the last time you tried to sing something and it was frustrating. Didn't sound how you wanted it to sound. What came up? Okay. And then we're going to ask, what's the base emotion underneath that? Is it fear that you're not going to be accepted? Is it sadness that you just can't do this thing that you want to do so bad? Is it anger at yourself for not doing more work in the past? Losing time? Or maybe there's some joy in it, Maybe there's surprise, maybe there's more positive feelings, emotions behind it. See if you can kind of tap into that for a second and feel what's the general feeling underneath it. Okay. These are, not, of course, not your only options for emotions. Any emotions is great. Think about inside out, choose one of those. Okay. Another important thing to know, especially as we're doing a body-centered art activity, where does it live in your body? Do you feel this frustration, fear, anger, sadness in your shoulders? Do you feel it in your solar plexus, right underneath your rib cage? Do you feel it in your toes? Do you feel it like the back of your head? It lives somewhere probably. Where do you get tightness? Where do you get holding? When you realize you've been holding something, some muscle for a long time and you finally release it, where is that? So for me, it's definitely in my solar plexus because I feel like a gut punch feeling, when I feel wrong or when I feel like I'm not doing a good job or enough or something. And I know this because it's been there all my life. And also I have digestive issues. I've had digestive issues because of it. So it continues to remind me that this is where it lives in my body. Because when I'm stressed, tightness, right? When you have tightness in your organs, doesn't end well. Or you may have chronically tight shoulders, and every time you go to get a massage, they're like, what have you been doing? You know? Good to know about yourself. Okay, then what does the voice behind the emotion say? If you could find that emotion in this place in your body and ask it, what do you have to say? It's going to be a level deeper than just you. It's going to be something a little more powerful, a little more vulnerable probably. And again, you don't have to share this if you don't want to. But if you do want to, feel free. If you're struggling to know what the voice is saying, you can take a minute and ask it. Close your eyes, get in contact with it, feel into what color it is, what shape, texture it is. Or maybe you have a memory that's coming up from a long time ago. Just trust whatever comes up right now. So there's some sort of fear of being rejected by the people around you. That's a very common one. There's some sort of anger at not being allowed to express yourself. It's another common one. Or having somebody put walls around how you were allowed to express yourself, and it wasn't in all the ways you wanted to. So what does that want to say? Usually it's something like, I want out, or I just want to do what I want to do, or something emotion packed like that, you know. Or like, I just want everybody to like me, and that's totally okay. Okay, last one. Out of all of these, find the thing that is the deepest and most true for you. So if that's the answer to this last one, great. What is the habit statement that is continually coming up for you when you try hard things, when you try a hard song, when you listen to your voice back and you don't like it? What's the thing that comes up for you? The statement that comes up. That's like nagging you. And if you want to share it, please do in the chat. But no requirements. And of course, you're always welcome to unmute too if you want to share. Typing is a pain. So the thing that came up for you as your habit statement, I want you to write this down on a separate sheet of paper or a sticky note, and not to continue to nag yourself with it, but to be aware of it when it does come up. I want you to have it in front of you so that when you're singing and you see that, you're more aware of when it shows up in your mind. So if it's, you're not good enough, and you see that on a piece of paper in front of you when you're singing, and then your gremlin says it to you, you're like, oh, right, that's just a habit. That's my habit statement. It's the broken record in my head, right? It's not necessarily the truth in this moment. And it's staring you in the face. So that's the idea. And we're going to get into how to counteract this later on. But I want to see if it shows up in singing context. So we're gonna do a little warm up. So I want you to notice during this warm up when your voices or your habit statement comes up, and don't judge or resist them. Just allow them to come up because, again, this is a habit. You're not going to change a habit right now in this moment. You're just going to notice more often when they come up, or if a different flavor of them come up, you know. If just a simple ew comes out, you'll know that that's a version of your habit statement, right? So we're going to do a warm up, and we're going to do a slightly more intense warm up. I don't necessarily want to call it poking the bear, but we're not going to be as comfortable. How's that? Okay, cool. See what your first instinct is here. So is your first instinct when you come up against something difficult to fight it, to push through? Is it to stop altogether and give up, which is usually the flight energy? Is it to freeze and tighten everything so that nothing can happen? Or is it to fawn, which is usually the, I don't know, am I doing this right kind of energy, you know? So just notice, we're not judging. I want you to trust the fear that comes up, embrace the fear, welcome the fear, as hard as that sounds, because it means that what you're doing is special and that you care about it. That's how I always try and reframe stage fright or fear of anything. It just means that I care, because if I didn't care, I would not have been in this place in the first place, you know? Resistance is the thing that leads to more fear. So this is why I want you just to accept it. We're not judging the gremlin. The gremlin is not your enemy. We're not trying to get rid of them for good, because God knows that's never going to happen. We are just noticing. That's it. Okay, so let's do a warm up together. And then we'll be warmed up for later. Okay, so we're going to take a nice big reach, big sigh. Good. Little head roll. Find some space. Nice. Breathe in your belly. And allow that belly to relax. Contract in. Good. And then maybe hands behind you. Press down, lift up, stretch the front of your shoulders a little bit. Turn your head to one side. Good. And then the other side. Nice. And shake everything out. Whole body shake. Good. Okay, cool. So let's start with just some easy lip trills. We're gonna go arpeggio style. So we're gonna go kind of quick. Okay, ready? So let's start low in your voice, and then belly breath in between each. Ready? Belly breath. Make it itchy. Couple more. If we're too high, don't worry about it. What's the last one? Okay, good. I went intentionally a little higher on purpose. Anybody's gremlin come up? Habit statement come up? I love it. Okay, cool. Let's do another one. Let's do I like this one because it's like half and half. So we're gonna do half arpeggio and then half scale on the way down. And if that doesn't make any sense to you, don't worry about it. Just follow the melody. Okay, so we're gonna do nay, and we're gonna do nice and forward and kind of narrow, kind of obnoxious sounding, right? I want you to sound like an obnoxious toddler. Yes, so we're taking up lots of space in the front. So we're gonna go nay, 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 nay. Sound good? Really annoying. Ready? Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. Belly breath. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. Good. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. Good, I know, more annoying. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. You can do it to nya as we get higher. Nya, 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 nya. Nice and loud, you got it. Nya, 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 nya. Nya, 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 nya. Good, couple more. Nya, 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 nya. Nya, 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 nya. Lots of space, two more. Nya, 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 nya. Last one, belly breath. Nya, 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 nya. Ooh, that's high for me even. Nice. Okay, tell me about the habit statements that came up. What showed up when you were being obnoxious and high?
Definitely like freeze for me, like the just don't even just stop all
Yeah.
everywhere. Just
Sound just stopped. Yeah,
yeah,
makes a lot of sense. What was the habit statement that came up?
like this is hard. I don't know, or I can't do this.
Yeah, totally. Great. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Who else?
That's kind of my comfort zone. It's, it's kind of like you're goofy and adult thing. I do exercise, feel less pressure to perform that level. Not the
Uh-oh.
exercise. So,
Josh,
but
it's
my
breaking
growth.
up pretty bad. I can't understand you. Can you hear me? You can hear me. Yeah, I think it's a little glitchy. So you might want to get on your hotspot again if you're not already. Sorry, I didn't get any of that. If you want to put it in the chat or something. Cool. Anybody else want to share?
I think I had a like combination of fight and freeze because I don't always like I know that I have some limits with my register. Like I've been told I have limits with my like upper register, but I like try to fight through it, but then I'm like, wait, no, I can't do it. Like that statement of I can't do it. It's too high. Came up.
Yeah, totally. Combinations, absolutely very real. Good. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, I second that. My thing is always like, you're gonna crack. You're gonna crack. And then it's like a hiccup because I'm like, no, fight.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, somewhere along the way we learned that cracking is the worst possible thing we could do with our voice, right? It's not good. It's a sign of a bad singer. But I'll tell you right now, that's not true. So yeah, that's a very real thing that shows up. That habit statement is like, you better not mess up. You better be perfect, right? But I don't know if you know this, but cracking is a thing that everybody has. It's just a register change that everybody has in their voice. It's a muscle switch handoff, and so it's just a matter of how much you have practiced that handoff. And if you haven't, it's going to be a little clunky, and that is totally normal. And country singers use it all the time to give the style that they want in a song. So I'm all for unshaming the crack. That's your phrase forever and ever to write down. You can quote me on it. Don't tell anybody what it means. That'll be great. They'll be like, what kind of program is this? Unshame the crack. Oh, you're in the car. Gotcha. Yeah, totally. That's totally fine. Sorry about that. It's all good. I'm glad you have a space for yourself to sing. That's good. So yes, unshaming the crack. That's what we're doing. Okay. So now this is the part where it's mostly just for you, but I want to offer kind of a different way of looking at it. So think back about your whole singing life or your whole musical life in general. Like, were you in a musical in third grade? Did you try out for a choir one time? Did you sing in front of friends and they laughed at you or something? Or this can be positive as well. Were you always the good singer of your friend group? Did that create more pressure for you to be always the good singer person? Yes. So, did your parents make you perform in front of company? It can be positive or negative. Just 3 beliefs about your voice that changed how you see yourself as a singer, either for good or bad. So, take a minute to think back. Maybe you were like 7 and you were driving in a car with your parents and they told you to be quiet for whatever reason. Maybe they had a headache, but you took it as, I'm not a good singer. Those kind of things really shape us. Anybody have anything they are willing to share? No requirements.
I think I already shared this with you probably, Sarah, but and I was just talking about this today too. I remember in like it was kindergarten or first grade, I got my first solo and I was so excited. But then when I got up on the stage and like saw everybody in the audience, I just started bawling my eyes out and ran off the stage. And they really tried to encourage me to go back, but I just would not. And it's like I was like, oh, I'm not a performer. I'm not a performer. And that's like I always think about that. It's like a if we were in Inside Out, I feel like it would be one of my islands of personality. Like honestly, that's how much of my mind it consumes.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
Those moments are really big, especially when you're a kid. That little, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else have anything they want to share?
I was surprised thinking about this because I have so many negatives, but in recent years, as I've been singing more, I've had so many amazing friends that have been so encouraging. That like that came up for me of like, oh no, I have people who have said, oh, you're good, like that's amazing, that's beautiful, and that's been really healing for as many, like, that's like one small thing in the sea of negatives that I have, but I'm really grateful for that. So that was nice to have that come up as we were going through this exercise.
That's amazing. I'm so glad. It really does weigh out some of the negatives more than you think, if you let it. Yeah. Amazing. Anybody else want to share?
I have one. It's um a belief. I didn't realize that I believed this until I was thinking about it and wrote it down. But like in choir, like it's great. It was awesome. I tried out for a solo and did not get the solo, and told myself that I am not a soloist. I am just only good at supportive singing.
Yeah, that's a real thing. Absolutely. Auditions and that kind of culture that exists in choirs can really mess with you. You know, if one person's choice feels like the biggest thing in the world to you, it's gonna live with you for a long time. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really hard watching like all my musical theater kiddos like go through that process like a couple times a year. Like they audition, they want a part so bad, and they don't get the part they wanted, and it's like, oh, it's heavy, you know. But we just do our best, and hopefully their parents are talking to them like this too. You know, like it's not a problem with you. It's just they had a certain idea about the part, and it wasn't quite right. It doesn't mean you're worse. It just means that you are you, and you have this path to tread, you know. But it's hard to let go of that. It really is. As a kid, it's really hard. Yeah, I remember just like straight up not doing a lot of things because I was so terrified of that feeling, you know. Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so from these places, this is where your habit statement comes from, right? So these people that made these decisions to say these things are not the gremlins, but over many years, as you may have experienced, they amalgamate into this feeling, this thing that is forever on your back that likes to drive the bus that I call a gremlin. And this is like the most, you know, publicized version of what a gremlin looks like. It may not look like that for you. It's pretty nasty. But I want you to start to notice when this habit statement comes up, and I want you to actually give it a name, because when we separate ourselves from those voices, we can start to feel into what is our own truth and what is just a habit of those negative voices. And at the end of the day, all a gremlin is your ego trying to keep you safe. It's trying to keep you from taking risks outside of its comfort zone, right? So really, it's acting out of love, but it doesn't feel like that sometimes. You know, it feels like it's just angry and it's trying to keep you from doing anything fun and exciting ever or taking any risks because it thinks that everything outside of what is in your little box right now is death, right? So it's going to yell at you real hard and tell you that you're worse than you thought you were to keep you from taking big risks. So if you want to think about it as, oh, a gremlin on your shoulder, you can totally think about it like that. But I really want you to take a second and feel into what your gremlin is. Like, what kind of being is it? Is it an animal of some sort? Is it a humanoid? Is it a blob of energy? Is it a shape? What is it? What does it feel like to you? So if you need to call up that habit statement again, remember one of those feelings. What does it feel like it is? And ask it its name if you haven't yet, you know? And again, this is an amalgamation of different voices you may have heard. So it may end up being the name of one of those people, or it may not, and that is fine. Whatever it is for you, that's all that matters. I would like to know what the name of your gremlin is because I think it will help me help you, if that makes any sense. So it doesn't have to be anything like super deep or anything. Like I think Neff's already named hers as Tater, which I love. I think that's the best gremlin name ever. So if I know your gremlin name and you're struggling in a session, I can be like, okay, is this Tater saying this? Or is this you? You know? And then we can separate ourselves from Tater and be like, oh, Tater's just doing his thing, the thing he always does. We're gonna let Tater do that thing outside so we can have some gremlin free time. Yes? It's
I like
not
to
just
say
go ahead.
Tater can just go take a seat on the couch because it's a potato. Just, mm.
Just, exactly. Boop, go away. Yeah, that's perfect. I love that. And again, you're not like, you don't have to kick it out violently, but sometimes they're really, really persistent. So like if tough love doesn't work, you might want to get violent, you know? I always say like I really try just like nicely taking my gremlin, whose name is George, off of my shoulder and putting him outside the room, but he is really persistent. He's really good at his job, which is again keeping me from taking risks because that's how I respond to things. And he will always come back. And sometimes he comes back stronger every time. And so sometimes it's necessary to take George off my shoulder and freaking drop kick him into oblivion. Okay? Sometimes it's necessary to do what you gotta do in order to get some gremlin free time for your artistic self. So I want you to write down in the chat what your gremlin's name is and what kind of being they are. What does it look like? You can even draw it if you want to. That is a really fun thing. If you want to share your drawing this week in the chat, in the group, I would love to see your gremlin drawings. They're super fun. One person was a gamer and she made like a whole avatar in that gaming program of her gremlin. It was super, super fancy. There is no right answer here. It can literally be like a piece of poop or something. Okay? This is the most important thing I want you to know about your gremlin. When you find its name and when you find out what it is, I want you to envision them standing in front of you, right? And when you hear that voice in your head that's saying your habit statement, the thing that it says all the time, the gremlin's catchphrase, I want you to feel and know in your gut that that is not coming from you, right? It is not a thing that you are telling yourself that you are not good enough. It is all of these people from your past and all the pressures that you feel. This could even be not even coming from a person. It could be from watching American Idol and feeling like you'll never be good enough to be an American Idol. Like, you want to talk about some societal, systemic bullshit? That is a whole thing. I have a whole rant about reality singing shows. But it really is all of this other stuff. And it lives in you because it has been trying to keep you safe from taking a risk for your whole life. So it's important to separate this and to know that it is not you that is saying this. Usually you can tell that it's not you if it makes you feel gross after you hear it, you know? So the other thing you can do is just tell your gremlin to F off, right? Like there's one thing to know who your gremlin is and what it says, but they're just gonna keep doing their job until you tell them to F off because it's just a part of you. Right? And you can do this. You have power over this part of you. And you can tell it to F off, right? And if that means like literally getting up, taking your imaginary gremlin and putting him outside the door and shutting the door, great. If that means slamming the couch with a pillow to get him to go away, great. If that means literally drop kicking to imagine him going away, imagine him on Jupiter, you know? Whatever it takes for you and your brain to separate. Chad. Heck yes, I love that. Amorphous dude bro bully shaped being. I love that so much. the Chad, an extremely spuddy potato named Tater. He wants to protect me from rejection and keep us safe. But I am stronger than a potato. Amen. Yes, yes, yes. I love it. This is the reason I love this lesson, because you guys come up with stuff I would have never, ever imagined. Incredible. One time somebody came up with their gremlin was the robot from 2001: A Space Odyssey. I forget its name. You know what I mean? The like voice from nowhere that like kills somebody or something. So good. Dude, bro. So curious. I want to know who your gremlin is. Even if you have just a name at this point, that's great. Hank, and he looks like a Space Jam alien. Amazing. Oh, we got a Hank and a Frank. Very nice. I feel like they're twins. That's so fun. Yeah, one of those the bad Space Jam aliens. The small ones. Okay, gotcha.
That's the best part. It looks like a small one. Like it's not even that serious. It's just annoying.
Amazing. Love that. That's so great. It's been probably 25 years since I've seen Space Jam. I gotta watch that again. Yeah, annoying and small. Amazing. Hank and Frank. Great. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so now we know who your gremlin is, and we can literally tell it by name. Hank, F off. Right? You can say the whole word if you want to. Whatever works for you and your brain. Yeah? Fuck off, Frank. So it's up to you to discern in these moments what Frank is saying or what Tater's saying. And if you really want to believe it, because our default is just totally. We should write that song. Yeah, it's up to you what to determine what is you for real and what is your gremlin, because especially when we're singing, we get very vulnerable, and so your gremlin uses that as fuel. Like that is your gremlin's food, is when you feel vulnerable and like you're taking a risk and like you're outside your comfort zone. So it will come in and try and derail you with whatever tools possible. It will grab a memory from when you were 7, you don't even remember, and be like, hey, remember when that happened? You should not do this because this will happen again, right? It's ridiculous. But you are the one in charge, right? You're driving the bus. You get to kick that gremlin the heck out. So finding as much gremlin free time as possible is your goal, to be able to sing in that space, And like I said, if tough love doesn't work, just visualize yourself actually kicking it, It's a gremlin, gremlins come back. They don't die. It's just temporary. Send it far away so it takes longer for it to come back. Yes? Does that feel like a good plan? Okay, great. It will come back, but it's up to you whether to give it space and to choose to believe that its voice is not your own. So you are in charge. Again, if you feel like you are not in charge, you might want to look at what your nervous system is doing. If you are feeling unsafe to take the reins of that bus, there might be something that your body needs before you can do that. Safety first. Because if you're trying to battle your gremlin from an already unsafe place, if you're fully in freeze or fully in fight and feeling sweaty and feeling clammy and feeling all those things, you got to take care of yourself first before you can fight that gremlin. So going through the body, take care of yourself, give yourself some muscle engagement. We'll talk about this in a later lesson, but we did a little bit of this today. Muscle engagement is really helpful for reminding your body that you are doing something about this perceived threat. So you can do a little squat, you can do a little plank, you can do a little pushing your hands together, press your feet into the ground. After that, if you're still feeling heightened, you can go in through the body with some more gentleness. So giving yourself an actual hug, like literally putting your hand underneath your armpit, one hand on top of your shoulder. We can do this right now if you want. give yourself a big squeeze, like actually squeeze yourself, because these are biological pressure points that remind your body that you are safe and that you are being held and you are not in danger currently. Because you wouldn't be doing this if you were in danger, you'd be running from a tiger, right? Another cool thing that I always forget to mention is when you open your mouth, that is another trigger to your body that you are safe. So like my coach always says, like, if you're feeling dysregulated, go floss. Because holding your mouth open for that long will remind your body that you are not in danger. It's really wild. The body is a crazy place. So like, you know, you might feel like you're a little crazy, but you can just sit here, give yourself a hug with your mouth open. Because this is something a person not in danger would do. Yeah. Yeah. Wild, I know. And then, of course, the usual, a little deeper breathing, some affirmations. I am safe. It's okay to make noise. It's okay to take up space. Those things. But those things without the body stuff don't always work, in my opinion. So, highly recommend doing these things and then taking on the gremlin. Feel good? Feel like a plan? Okay, great. So we did a warm up already, but I just want to introduce this concept of how I like to practice as a very busy, anxious person who is a perfectionist. This is a nice way to kind of work in practice to your everyday life, and I call it the 5-5-5 practice. And basically, so many people have told me that they don't practice because they didn't have time or they just got so busy and they forgot. But this is a way to kind of counteract both of those feelings. So literally you can do these 5-minute sections times 3, and they don't even have to be consecutive. So literally if you have 5 minutes on the drive to a grocery store, you can do warm up, right? On the way home from the grocery store, you can do this middle part. And then when you're at home putting the groceries away, you can do this third part. And that's all it takes, you know? So the first thing we got to do is warm up, right? We're not just going to launch into defying gravity. We're going to warm up first. We're going to take advantage of our warm-ups that we do in here. We can do just little versions of those. So an SOVT stands for semi-occluded vocal tract exercise. You don't need to know that for the quiz later. That doesn't exist. It means that you are closing some part of your vocal tract to create some resistance backwards instead of forwards. So lip drills count, what we just did. You can use a straw. Straws are really fun. Just a normal aluminum straw in a little bit of water is great. You can blow bubbles. That counts. You can also, if you don't have any of those, you can do V's. So you can do or Z's. Because it closes this part of your vocal tract and creates a back pressure feeling. And it's a lot less resistance than regular singing is. So it's really good to start on these. It's a nice way to ease into a warm-up. Highly recommend one of those. And then 4 minutes of warming up in a specific skill that you're working on. So if in particular you are working on singing in your high register and making that feel more comfortable, don't warm up for 4 minutes in your low register. Do a little bit, but focus mainly on the high stuff, right? So you're making this more focused and not feeling like you need to do everything all the time. You're just doing the thing that you're working on in this moment. There are times when you're going to want to do a half an hour warm up. That's great, but this is not necessary every day. So I would say pick maybe the beginner warm ups, YouTube tracks that I have posted in the group, and you can pick one of those. Pick one of those as your favorite thing to do. And so like those half and halves that we did, that's one of my favorite ones to do when I just have 2 minutes, because it gets me a big range really fast. And so I can get higher in my voice and stretch out without having to do 800 of the half scales, you know? So just a thought, whatever you like best, whatever you're working on at that moment. And then 5 minutes of this practice from a safe space. And this is the key, right? You don't want to do this when you are dysregulated. You don't want to do this when you're freaking out about something. This is for you to remind yourself to prepare your environment in a good way so that you are feeling like you are in a safe space to mess up, because that is necessary for you to practice efficiently. Because if you're freaking out about not messing up during your practice time, you're not going to learn how to get through difficulty in a performance, you know? So take it back a notch. I always say we're doing things at like 80% maybe when we're in practice most of the time, unless you're like right before a performance and you're like dress rehearsal, so that your body has that as a solid foundation. I would do 5 to 10 times through 1 to 2 pieces of your song. Unless you're right before a performance, we're not going to do the whole song. There's most of your song that you probably can do just fine. Focus on the part that feels less than comfortable, the part that you're struggling with, and just do those 4 bars 5 to 10 times. And that way you have 5 whole minutes to do that a bunch of times instead of doing the whole song only twice, which is not helpful to you, right? So the last 5 minutes is necessity, because if you spend the whole time doing this, you're going to be frustrated and not want to practice ever again. The last 5 minutes has to be play. You're going to focus on still the same skill, but take the pressure off. My goodness. Make funny voices in the song that you like. Do the song that you were just doing as Cinderella. You know, do the song that you were just doing as SpongeBob. Like, sing it with your kids or something, you know, imitate somebody. Just go all out for a second. But your number one priority here is ease and fun, right? This is why we sing in the first place. So we got to keep this in our practice at all times. Otherwise, we forget and we get too serious and we get too intellectual. Make sense? Okay, cool. And I had to put this at the bottom because your gremlin will always come back. You get to choose how you deal with it. Okay, so if you like the full 15-minute warm-up videos that I have posted, you can just do that. But if you feel like you barely have any time as it is, and there's no way you're going to be able to sit down and do 15, 20 minutes of a warm-up, do this. And again, it doesn't have to be consecutive. It can be 5 minutes here, 5 minutes an hour later, 5 minutes an hour later. Totally fine. I am always a big fan of whatever makes you practice is the right kind of practice. Whatever brings you into it with fun and makes you want to practice, that's the kind of practice that we're going to do. So keep that in mind. It's not a requirement or an assignment. It's just a suggestion. I just really like this style because it kind of covers a little bit of everything. Feel good? Okay, cool. Any questions about any of this? No? Okay, cool. Well, that's all I had for today. So the rest of this is going to be mini hot seats, because this is how I have it set up. There's a reason why it's 90 minutes. So you have this space to sing if you want to. And if you don't want to, you totally don't have to. But we have time. If there's anything you want to just discuss with your time, you don't have to sing. If you have questions about a certain topic, we can totally just discuss instead of go full out and sing. You're welcome to do whatever you want. Ask me whatever you want. Ask other people things with your 10 minutes or so. So that being said, who would like to go first? Do you want to take a 1-minute bathroom break and decide? Okay, let's go do that. We'll be back in a couple minutes. Okay, welcome back. How we feeling? Yes? Would anybody like to go first?
Sure. I am, yes, this is a song. It is not my song. It is a Beatles song. And Tater, you do not have to put a disclaimer before your song, so okay.
Yes. Beautiful.
Girl, or should I say she once had me, and she Norwegian wood. I don't think those the words. Uh-oh.
That's okay. Actually, that's a great time to pause because Zoom is not liking what you're doing. So
Oh.
let's talk about tech stuff for a second. Um, so if you go to your audio settings, which is the arrow right by the audio button, the microphone button. Do you find that? And you guys can do this too if you have it there.
No. Wait, okay. Mute, unmute. Where's the audio?
Are you on an iPad?
Yeah.
Okay, so we might have to do this a little differently. I think on the iPad you have to go to like your settings,
Okay.
like in where was it? I
Ooh.
wrote it down. I should know this.
And more.
I think it's under more.
General. I wonder if it's gonna. Hmm. Hmm.
What did I do with it?
Settings, meetings, auto connect to
Yes, there it is.
audio.
Settings, meetings, under audio. Turn on the original audio toggle if it exists.
Use
Is there
an
something?
original audio.
Does it say
Okay.
original audio?
Use original audio. Disable or okay, it looks like it's enabled. I can Does that sound different?
Not yet, but when you sing it might. So,
Ooh,
yeah, if the audio is on, original audio is on, that's a good sign, I think. So we can try that.
okay. Okay, it was on.
It was
I just
on.
turned it off.
Okay. Well, let's try that then. See what happens.
Okay. Ooh.
Sometimes
Oof.
iPads and iPhones, like the mobile app, is they don't have as many settings, but this is a new thing that I didn't know they had before either. So let's
Yay.
see how it works.
I also have a mic plugged in. I don't know if that. Okay.
That might be helpful, or also might be helpful to have headphones as well, just in the future.
That part. Okay.
Yeah,
All
that
right.
might be helpful as well. So just a
Okay.
thought. But let's try it and see what happens.
Okay. Should I? Oh, okay. And then what? Does that sound different? Is it different? Now I'm just wondering. Now I'm just wondering if
Not
it's
yet,
different.
but so Zoom doesn't like loud sounds, so it cuts them out when you're too loud. So when you started
Ooh,
singing and
okay.
playing at
Wait,
the
okay.
same time, it was
I wonder if okay. I sat on a rug, biding my time, drinking her wine.
that was better, yeah.
We talked until 2, and then she said, it's time for bed. She told me she worked in the morning and started to laugh. Doo-doo. I told her I didn't and crawled off to sleep in the bath. And when I awoke, I was alone. This bird had flown. So I lit a fire. Isn't it good Norwegian wood? Do 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 do.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, that was better. I don't know if it was because the ukulele was gone or what, but did you unplug your microphone or did you leave it in?
No, I didn't. And it's you. I mean, ukuleles. They're very like
Yeah,
yeah.
totally. That is. Okay, cool. Well, that was beautiful. Either way, thank you for working with me. The tech is the hardest part of this whole program. Okay, great. So, what did you feel when you were singing that? Did you feel any of that nerves come in? How did it feel in your body?
It did. I did feel a little nervous actually. Actually, I felt less nervous when I put down the instrument,
Interesting.
which is funny. I don't know. That's not usually how that works for me.
Mm, interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes just trying to do too many things at one time is a lot, you know. Singing and
Yeah.
playing is a lot for sure. But yes, how did you notice that affected your singing physically? What did you feel?
I felt like I was well, I felt definitely like I kept punching
Mm-hmm.
to like fret and blah 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 and pay attention to what I'm doing there. And then that made this like my throat wasn't long. It was like tight throat, small throat, like one of those pipes, like choo choo choo. It's just like
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's totally how I would describe that feeling too. Yeah, just zoop, everything kind of shrinks up a little bit. Yeah, I definitely heard it in a couple moments. Mostly like there's maybe a little extra kind of closure in this sound that I would call like a hard cry kind of a thing. Like it's not like a cry like on purpose, like ah, but it's more like ah, it's
yeah,
a tighter cry. And I
yeah,
felt like that was maybe not intentional. Is that accurate?
yes,
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha. Cool. That's good to know. So yeah, I think that's probably one of the things that you can look out for as a pattern that shows up for you when you get nervous. That tightness shows up as like the beginnings of notes and stuff get a little tighter than you maybe want them to, and they start
yeah.
more in here than up here, you know?
Right. Where I want to sing out, but I'm just like, actually, I'm singing in.
Yeah, it's that sound you just made, right? It's kind of like a squeaky kind of a thing. But otherwise, it was really, really lovely. I also noticed that you have a very fast vibrato. Have you been told that before?
No.
It's kind of cool. And it is also something that I would love to work with you on at some point so that it is more movable. Like, I don't want to
Okay.
take away your fast vibrato, but I want you to be able to do different styles and different speeds and frequencies later on, eventually when you want to. So
Yeah.
that's just a thought. Sometimes it does come from a little extra tightness and not letting this instrument be 100% as loose as it could. Because that's
Yeah.
where the vibrato comes from, is it actually your secondary vocal folds vibrating, and those are the ones that hold onto your vocal cords. So like
Okay.
it really is when somebody has a fast vibrato, it's either because that's how they were taught and that's their default and that's their style and that's great, like Shakira, amazing, and that's what makes Shakira Shakira, right? However,
Yeah.
if it's not an intentional choice, that tells me that maybe we could work on expanding and loosening a little bit so that it is a little more intentional. I'm not saying
Yeah.
it's like it's a problem because it may not be. Um, and it's only for you to tell like what feels good and what feels bad inside of your.
Yeah. No. I appreciate that feedback. I do.
Okay, cool. So some of them work on later because vibrato is a whole thing. But those little cries, I do kind of want you to think about starting notes in here instead of in here and see how that feels, you know? So like, what's a line in that song? That's like the first couple lines. I was just working on this
Oh,
with another student like yesterday, weirdly enough. Um,
uh, and, and when I awoke,
mhm.
I was alone. This bird had flown.
Yeah, so like things that start on a vowel, like N, right? And
And
those can be
yeah,
moments where you add a little squeeze, something more than maybe we would want.
and
Yeah.
and
And yeah, you feel the difference?
yeah. I'm thinking here. Don't think here. I am thinking here. I was thinking here.
Totally. Yeah. And it's totally natural. Like that's how we make that sound. Right? It's a glottal stop, as we
Yeah,
call it. But like we can take some weight out of it, right? And it can be a little
yeah,
more evenly distributed if we put it in here. Ah, ah, instead of ah, right? It can be a little less harsh.
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
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 So mostly just vowel words for that one, but also just keep an eye on where those squeezes show up and see if you can decipher how to distribute that weight differently. Yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Let me know how that goes when you're practicing this week.
Oh.
Amazing. All right, who wants to go next?
I can go. I think my connection's kind of wacky right now, though. So
Okay.
just let me know if I'm like cutting out or anything.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Um. Okay, sounds good. This song is called "Bitter." It was the first song I wrote this year, um, because someone broke my heart, and now I need my pitch again because I don't remember. How many lifetimes will I live in one? So many lessons still to come. How many times do I have to try to find the right one? The people who I knew are ghosts inside my mind, and I try to find some gratitude for the blessing that is time, and the ghosts inside my mind, the people who I knew. But I am angry, I am bitter. God, my soul, please deliver me. I am fearful, I am filled with grief and sadness. I never wanted this. My heart broke into pieces. That's the first section.
That's lovely. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, man,
Thank
what heartbreaking lyrics. Yeah. So powerful.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What did you notice when you were singing that? Walk me through how it felt.
Um, so one of my friends actually helped me with the melody, and she's a more talented singer, in my opinion, than I am. So the jumps and the leaps are crossing over my break, and I feel uncomfortable. And I notice that like almost every time. I think when I've sung it many times through in a day, then I'm like, okay, I got this. But when it's like the first or third or fifth time that I've gone through it in a day, I'm like, it just feels like there's like maybe I should have done it in a different key. Like that's kind of how I feel when it's like it's a good key. It's fine. Like it exhibits like my low range and my higher range. So crossing that and making it more comfortable.
I hear you. And when you say comfortable, do you mean physically comfortable? Like, do you get tired after it happens a lot?
I think sometimes, but it's almost like I'm unsure of pitch placement. Like I'm afraid of not going up
Yeah,
to
with
the
those
right
big
note.
jumps, 100%. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem with intervals for most people is like, am I gonna get it right? It feels like I'm shooting in the dark. I don't know. So yeah, I think that's definitely a thing. I'm wondering because I'm hearing a little bit of like larynx lowering when you're in the lows. I'm wondering if it's partially because it has a longer way to go when you jump up. If you're feeling any tiredness because it's more acrobatic when you do that versus like keeping your larynx in a steadier place and having this like instead of you know the difference.
Yes, yeah, I do. That's what I used to work on in my other voice lessons too,
Gotcha.
keeping it
Okay,
more forward. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes
perfect.
sense. I think that's a great reminder. Yeah, like keeping it here, keeping it uh, like smiling more. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, those are all really helpful things. I like to think of like, especially in the low range, in order to keep it forward. Like for me, as a higher voiced person, there's a lot less gray area in between those extremes. I'm either at or ha, and it's really hard to be somewhere in the middle. So if I'm thinking about keeping it out in front, I like to think about like I'm telling a dog not to eat something. Like, no,
Mm.
it's right out here. It's forceful, it's low. No, don't do it, and that will help me get out behind that wall here. Because
Yeah,
our default is often like, because we feel like we have to work to get those lower notes.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
That,
yeah, let it be speech level, as they call it. I'm not
right.
allowed to use that term because it's a thing, it's a legal thing. But it's the same uh, level as it is when you're talking. So like,
Right.
hey, 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 hey. It's not really lowering a whole lot. So
Right.
maybe put your hand on your larynx when you're singing it, so you can really feel where those movements are. And then the other
Okay.
thing is I like to think about all these pitches on like a ladder in front of me. Did we talk about this yet?
I don't know, but I've maybe heard it before if you
Maybe,
haven't
yeah.
said it.
So I imagine just like taking a keyboard and turning it on its side. So the low notes are down here and the high notes are up here. And that's kind of how it feels like they are in my body anyway, because chest, head, voice, there's a reason for that. So like when I'm transitioning, especially from my chest voice to my head voice, it's really helpful to have a button to push in front of me visually and kinetically if you want to. You can use your actual hand to freaking push the button because it really gets you grounded in that space instead of just being like, I hope I'm getting this note right. I think it's here, but I don't know, which causes more distrust in your body and more manipulation and more force, which can cause more working, more over efforting to happen. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah. So when I'm doing those intervals, I will find the place on this ladder in front of me where I feel like it is. So like give me one of the intervals that you're singing.
I have like the people who the I
Right,
yeah.
right, right. Right. So you're going the beep, that one. So it's an octave. Okay, great. So we're gonna go find this low one. The
The
Tell me where that feels like it is in front of you. The with full oomph forward, yeah. Okay, great. So chest level.
the
Okay, great.
yeah.
And now try this one. Beep.
P the
Okay.
P yeah, that's like eyebrow, maybe forehead.
Okay, great. So now you have two buttons to push, right? The
Yeah.
beep.
Okay.
Do that a couple more times.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah. The P the P Okay, yeah, wow, that's like magic.
Yeah, you already have so much more grounding in those both of those notes because you have a place to see it and a place to push that button with your hand. Because like if you're on a string instrument, you know exactly where your finger needs to go to make a certain note, right? We don't have that in here. We can't see anything,
Yeah.
so we got to give ourselves something to grab onto. So yeah, I would do those a
Yes.
bunch of times.
Okay.
Just build that
Cool.
muscle memory with this, and then eventually you can start taking your hand away, and hopefully it'll be
Yeah.
a little more comfortable. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Of course. Yeah. Let me know how that goes.
Perfect. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. All right, Stephanie, you want to sing?
I I don't know. Both their songs are so pretty, and I've just been working on this harmony that's kind of lame sounding on its own. They
No
really,
need to
No need to
compare.
compare.
no, I don't know. Um, yeah, I don't have anything. Can you, I've been working on the, falling slowly. And, oh man, I didn't think I was gonna feel as nervous because I've actually like practiced a bunch, but I feel,
Okay.
Okay,
Totally fine.
totally fine.
there you go. That's right, Shane.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
all
it's
good.
all good.
Do you want
Do
to
you want
just
to just
sing
sing
your
your
harmony
harmony
part
part
and
and
just
just
solidify that? We don't have to
You
do
don't
the
have to do the
whole
whole
harmony
harmony
thing,
thing.
Oh,
especially.
I wasn't even thinking about that, honestly. I was, but that's what I was thinking. I'm like, it just sounds so, no, because it's, adds a whole nother layer of like, don't make me do it with another person. That's so
Yeah,
scary.
yeah,
No.
But can you give me the first note, the E? Okay. Oh man. Okay. I gotta look at it, even though. Okay.
No shame.
No shame.
Take this sinking boat and point it home. We've still got time. Raise your hopeful voice. You have a choice. You make it now. That's the part I've been working.
Yeah. Gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
Thank you.
Really nice.
And just so
Just so everybody knows, like
when you are singing, we want the original sound on. But sometimes if you don't have headphones, you want to turn it off after you're done singing, because then my voice is echoing. I know it's a pain. It's a
I'm like, which one is it supposed to be? I was freaking out when you were helping that. I was like, oh my god. Oh my god.
oh no,
what's
technology.
happening?
Yeah.
I'm like, is it off? Is it on? What should
No,
I
you
do?
did it right. You did it right. So on when you're singing, off when you're not singing. And I know
Off
it's a
now.
pain in the butt, but that's
No,
why
it's-
headphones are helpful. But lovely tone. I really like what you're doing and the places you're finding in your placement, which placement is what we call like basically the tone that we were working on, right? How far forward or how far back or what color you're putting onto your voice. How does it feel for you?
it was. I felt nervous for sure. But I did I practiced that part a lot with like different like sounding like Patrick, like trying to sound more like Patrick than SpongeBob.
Yeah.
And like trying to figure out, and I just felt better with like using more of a chest voice than a head voice. I feel like before I was having like enough breath support to actually like connect the phrases, and the nerves makes breathing hard. But
So much. Yeah. This
but
is
yeah,
a big part of this practice is learning how to sing and change your strategy for a nervous body instead of a normal body, right?
yeah,
Because if you practice when you're calm and you're like, okay, yeah, I got this, and then you go to sing in front of somebody and you're like, I don't got this, what's wrong with me?
right.
That's not helpful for you, right? So this is why we do this. We practice singing in front of people so that we learn how to sing in this body instead of the calm body that you were 5 minutes ago, you know? So you did a lot of really good things, and I'm sure you learned a whole lot about what your body wants to do in this situation instead, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and we keep going and we follow the feeling, not the sound. So that's the main thing I want you to focus on. I was just telling Neff a little bit ago, when you are dysregulated, your hearing changes. Your hearing is more tuned to danger, so it changes to being more in tune with higher and lower frequencies, which is wild to me, you know? So the things that you're hearing when you are dysregulated are wildly different than what you hear when you are regulated. So keep that in mind. So when you are in a nervous situation, a more nervous situation, and you are hearing, this sounds way different than it did a while ago, what am I doing wrong? Just remember that it's probably just your biology. You may be hearing something different, but if it feels the same, if the muscle memory, if you're going off of muscle memory, if you're going off of, okay, I'm gonna do what's the easiest here, and I know that I need to get this note here, and you follow that that feeling in that space, that you're hearing something different, don't worry about it until you watch back later and you're like, oh, okay, I was doing the thing. My hearing was just different because I was in a weird state. You know what I mean? So keep all that in mind. It may be better than you think. Yeah, 99% of the time, it's better than most people think that they're doing.
I suppose.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to know these things about your body because we can't judge our nervous self the same way we do our calm self. You know, judging is the wrong word, but you know what I mean? Like, we're getting evidence, and I don't want you to take this evidence as truth because you're listening with different ears, you know?
Well,
So,
and
go ahead.
I feel like I practiced the notes enough that the notes were like, I'm like, I think this
Yeah.
is correct. And I felt like okay about that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then you just follow that, you know? Oh, I practiced this. I'm doing what I practiced, and I don't know what it sounds like because my ears are different. So we're going off of feeling, not sound. That's why I always reiterate that, especially at the beginning of this journey, because if we focus on sound, we're going to listen with very subjective ears every time we sing, depending on where we are, what our day has been like, who's in the room, all that stuff. And so if you think a bad sound is going to come out, is coming out, you're going to be manipulating more, you're going to be forcing more, you're going to be squeezing more, you're going to be over efforting. And then it's just a vicious cycle of like, oh, I'm worried that this note is going to come out wrong. I'm going to push harder. And then when you push harder, the note comes out flat. And then you're like, oh no, that's really wrong. Now I got to fix it even more the other way. And it's just a whole thing. So keep in mind that, yeah, you're probably doing a better job if you're focused on the feeling. And yeah, it's beautiful. Really, really nice. I like that it's in your chest voice down here and your head voice at the top. I think that's a great strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Feel good? Okay. Cool. Nicely done, everybody. Thank you for singing for me. Sorry, we went a couple minutes over. But you all are wonderful. We made it through week 2. Draw me a picture of your gremlin and put it in the group, please, because I want to know what they look like. And I'll send you some other homework. But from this point forward, your homework every week is going to be to post something in the group. So do that again, because you did great last time, and I'm looking forward to it. Have a lovely week, and I'll see you next week. Oh, and I'm going to put a poll in the group about other possible nights for our hot seat sessions, because I don't think Tuesday is the best for everybody. So I'll put a poll in there. Please answer if you can with the best options for you. I'm guessing it'll probably be either Friday night or Monday night. So let me know which one is the best for you in that case. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a lovely night. Happy singing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.